I wanted to start off with who knows anything about Notion or has used it before?
It's in the nature of note-taking. That's the fastest one.
Brilliant. HD. So firstly, Notion, I would actually say it's a workspace because not only can you note take in it, but you can do a lot of other things like form wikis and databases, as well as create tasks in workspaces. And there's this whole concept of a second brain, which I think if you watch some other people who use Notion talk about, and where it's like you store the information that you want, that you don't necessarily need to memorize, into somewhere else, and then you always know it's going to be there. So for me, Notion's kind of like that. So if I don't know something, I know it's in my Notion, so then I don't have to worry about it and I can do it later. And I think that's something that's really helpful for like task lists and things like that. So firstly, why Notion? And I think the main one is currently you can actually get it for free, not just through the student email, but there's a YouTuber called Ali Abdul. He's affiliated with Notion and he has a code. And if you use that, it gives you the premium subscription for free as if it's a school one, but then you can use it off a non-school email. That's why I say jump on it now. That's a big brain thing to do. The code is just ALI if you just need to do it. ALI, that's pretty much it. I'll show it up on the screen for you guys later, you know. I think it's a great way to centralize all your applications. So if you use things like Evernote, Google Task, Google Note, something like that, if you use any of those things, I used to use like OneNote, I used to use a bit of Evernote, I used to use Google Drive, but now I've got everything in one place and I know that I've got everything there. And I think that's actually a really helpful feature. It's really cross-compatible. So I'm actually reading off the notes I wrote previously on my iPad and it looks exactly the same as it would on a laptop, as well as if you go on a web browser, you can use your Notion and it looks exactly the same. And I think that's really helpful because then you know what things look like. Yes, there is a phone app as well. Yeah. Personally, I don't actually use a phone app because my phone's like real bad and then it doesn't have much storage. But then I would recommend it. I just carry my iPad everywhere now. Another reason I think you should use Notion is because I think it helps you improve your workflow. So when I do things now, if it's kind of repetitive, I just can reflect on it and then how I can improve it or cut time out from it. And then from that, I can decide whether or not it's worth to do something. I used to write my goals on Evernote, but then I realized I never looked at it. I didn't really care. So then I just got rid of it. And then anything that I do actually use now is in my Notion. I'm getting dry.
Emotional is another word.
All right, sorry about that. I think there's really easy templates which we'll go through. And that's super helpful if you are trying to look at how to use Notion for the first time. And it's very aesthetic and it's a pure joy to use, I think. Like the two other things I would say I really like about Notion is firstly, you can open up pages like twice. So you know how in like OneNote, you can only see that one page, especially the MacBook one, which is really annoying if you're trying to compare things. Look at that. It's a bit slow now because we're recording stuff at the same time, but you can have the same application open twice and it's already updated. And the same is when you have your web app open with the same thing. So I just press command and then press the page. So then if you go to, this is our Jesper CVs and interviews, quick plug that we did. So if you click the link and then, whoops, like you copy the page link for it. And then you go to Google Chrome and open it. Oh, you can see my username, sorry. Might hide it. Let's say like on the Jesper one, I think it's slow because it's recording everything at the same time, but if it stops. So let's say I say thank you to, and then I add an exclamation mark. It should, yeah, see, it already updated. I didn't even have to refresh the page. Like it legit like updates real time. So I think it's so useful, especially if you're collaborating or sharing with other people. Okay, I might actually just go through the basic things about Notion, which I think will be a lot more helpful and help you use Notion if you've never used it before. So firstly, in terms of everything's like based off little pages. So this is a page in itself. And then you just use like the / to get your basic building blocks. So like everything's made from these basic building blocks that you can kind of move around, and it makes it a lot easier to format things all together, and it keeps everything aesthetic. So like you can have pages within pages, and then that can continuously go on and on. And then for each page that you have, you can add like icons, which usually emojis, but you can actually import other photos if you want, as well as a cover photo. And I just find that's like a nice way to just make your page look aesthetic without having to put too much effort in. Some other things you should know. So let's say we have a title for our page. So you've got your normal text where you just write, and then you've got your headings. So if you want a small heading, if you want like a medium heading, and if you want a big heading, oops, big, you have like different size headings, which is useful. I think the other feature that I find really useful is that, you know, when you're trying to make little arrows and stuff, and then in OneNote you can't do it, if you just do it here, like it auto converts it into like the symbol for the arrow, which I think is useful, like when you do like pathogens and stuff like that. The other thing that's really useful is you can like do @ and then put a date. So then you can get a notification for a date if you want. So like give me a reminder like on a particular day or time. The same thing you can do is tag people. So if you're working in shared spaces, you can do that. Another useful thing is like, since you can convert everything at once, you can just turn it into. So I can also turn everything into a to-do list. And just like that, I've got my little to-do list. And then good thing about to-do lists as well is like, if you have a lot of them, you can also like mass click yes or no. You can also turn them into like numbered lists, bullet lists, etc. And my favorite one is probably toggle. So I actually use this in my like note stuff, which we'll go through in a bit. But basically toggles let you say like, oh, let's go here. See, you see small, and then you can have like text inside it. And I think that also helps keep things like real nice and neat. The other thing that I like is a feature called breadcrumbs, which is just lets you follow the trail of something. So this shows you the pages that this is embedded in. So if I click here, this is the page it's being embedded in. And then I think that's just a nice way to kind of have things. Some other things that you can have is like quotes. Like this is a block if you just want to put a quote and like, I don't know, seize the day, you know, look at me. You can embed like websites, like Google Maps and stuff like that. So if we open up like Google, let's say you wanted to pick like the map of Japan, or you can also do like directions and stuff. If you just click it and then you paste it straight in, you can embed as a Google map. And then this is really nice for like travel and stuff, but then it'll embed like the exact page that you had. Same thing with YouTube. So if anyone knows any good YouTube videos, you know, oh yeah, let's watch this one. Like let's say, oh, let's not watch it, but let's say you wanted to copy a video in, and then you can embed the video as well. And then there's some other oops. Hashtag give me some subscribers, you know, chuck me a like. Some other things you can actually do as well is there's this thing called the web clipper. So then if you want to clip like a particular page, you can save it into your Notion. So this is good if you're someone who likes to keep bookmarks and stuff. And then I think it's a nicer way to put your bookmarks, because then you can actually sort them, say what their each type is and stuff like that, without having to go back and forth between two websites. And the other, like the two other main things I was going to talk about is something called like tables. So these are basically like more powerful databases that you can use. So firstly, there's like your tables for like inline stuff. And then this is like gives you a lot of options to add properties and things like that, which we'll go through later. You can also show the same information as well in a different view. So you can have like a board view to show everything, where it kind of shows like if you're going to say a progress or something like that. You can also create a different view, like a calendar. So if you want to do it based off like dates and things like that, a list if you just have like a whole lot of things that you want to put together, as well as gallery. And we'll go through a bit of that a bit later as well. And the last thing that I want to talk about is something called templates. So you get this option with every new page that you open. But basically, templates give you the option of, I'm just going to move this so you can, oh, maybe I'm moving it down. Yeah, that's nice. So like with templates, if you just want some inspiration on things you can create, like if you're a student, for instance, and you want to keep a budget, this gives you like an example of a budget, or like class notes and things like that. And I think it's just a nice way to kind of see the things that you can do with Notion. So this is an example of like people who like keep podcasts and have a link to their podcasts, and then like if they read academic journals, and then you can just keep them all in one big database, which I think is quite helpful. And then if you do other jobs, like if you're a design person, if you do engineering and stuff, they have some example kind of workflows that you can work with. Personally, I'm not an engineer, but like I can see how this might be useful. Cool. Okay, and the other thing that you can do, which I think is actually really insane, is you can create your own templates and then have a button to create those templates. So I'll touch on this in a bit, but basically like, let's say you have a button that creates like a new to-do, and then every time you click it, it'll create a new thing of whatever you create. So I find that really helpful with creating like more complex databases and stuff, which I use for my notes. How are we going so far? Good, good, good. Okay, so I was actually going to start off with maybe how I use Notion first, and then give you a kind of overview on what I use and things like that. And then I'll go into, if no one's used like Notion before, like how to use it, as well as like things that can help with starting to use Notion. Because I know it can be quite overwhelming because there's so many features. But personally, I use Notion mainly as function rather than aesthetics. So I know it's quite aesthetic, but like the main thing for me is making sure everything I use is actually something I'm going to use. So I don't put a lot of time into like front pages and stuff as of yet, because mainly like I just want to make sure I'm actually creating a decent workflow with something before I actually do it. So then I might start off with my notes. So I'm just going to delete this page. I'm like, final year. I don't do many notes, but I've been starting. And this is kind of like how I lay out my notes. So I have my topics. I have some additional guides, and just I have all my unorganized notes in here. So what I actually have, I actually might just open up one of these. So no. Let's start with ortho. I only have like one thing in ortho, but like ankle fractures. The thing I like to do is whether or not I've got it in my Anki. So, if my Anki, this is like a new one that I started, but basically like if it's in here or not, what the page is, what the subtopic is, as well as my progress and when I last looked at it. So I'm someone who likes to write my notes via questions, and I used to try the Google Docs method as well as a few other methods in terms of having question answers, but I found it was really clunky and it didn't really give me an overview of topics very well. So I found using the toggle actually like quite useful thing for me. So then I just have the questions and it's just an overview. So I might see Ottawa ankle rules or classification of ankle fractures. And then I might ask myself, do I know it or not? And if I do know it, then I can try ask myself and then have a look at it. And I find that's just an easier way to also just get an idea of what I need. I have one of those breadcrumb thingies up here, so I know where I am. A quick summary if I need, and any additional reading. So like the notes for the Back to Base lecture that I only took one of, but I did take something of, is an example. So I just have some random notes in my unorganized notes. So like the junior doctor law one. So I just talked about like, yeah, open as page, and then boom, opens as a page. So like I just, for these topics where I have multiple subtopics, I like to do the question answer thing like this. So what is the advanced care directive, the types of directives, the medical treatment decision maker hierarchy, and then just have all my notes at the bottom from that. So then I might fix it up a bit and move it into my main notes, but I'm just doing it like this so I don't clutter my notes, like my actual notes, because I think once you get to the point you have like a bunch of like random half-finished pages, you end up like making the whole like database, you kind of make it useless. So this is what I like to do, and then have my summary. So illegal to bring up DAD, and you have to actually make a reasonable effort to see if a patient has advanced care directive or, medical treatment decision maker. Anyways, we're not here to learn med, we're here to learn Notion. So like the way I get these, like, so you saw those templates, and let's say in psychiatry, I want to make a new template. I don't know, I couldn't think of anything that was like psych related. So I was like, yo. So I created my own template. You can create your own template here. So you can also do multiple templates. So then in my new template, like it already has these like outlined. So then I can just start straight away. And I think that's an easy way if you like to have all your things formatted the same way, because then you straight up like don't even need to put effort into it. And then like with that template as well, like, because I haven't written many notes yet, like I also have a template maker for that template. So then, like, let's say I've got like rheumatology, you know, oh, the rheumatology. Ooh. So I've already got like the template ready for like that for all of them, like just straight off the map. Yes. Yeah. So in terms of making a new template for each page, you just click on new template and then you can just create it. And then whatever you create from there will end up loading here. The untitled one is just a blank page. And then if you want to create like a template like maker, so if you do the slash and then template button, so from here I configured a new template, and then what I had it, I'm just going to add topic. And then what you do here is like you can just drop in what you want it to do. So you can just drop in like a untitled, like blank, database. So let's say I just call this new table, and I'll just give it an icon so you can tell what it is in a cover photo. So now every time I create the add topic one, it's going to create off that. So then I think that's super useful for things like med notes, because that's something you're going to be creating a whole heap of. And by doing that, you'll be able to just like save time. I'm just going to delete those two, if that's all right. So I think, yeah, there's other like note-taking systems that some people use. Like I know some of my friends study with like the Cornell method, which is like you have like the questions on one side and then you have like the answers on the other side. And luckily they have like templates for that as well. Like I think what you want to do is you kind of want to find out what you like doing and then base it off that. So like if you do the Cornell note system and you just want it like this, then like if you create one of these templates, then it's already in the recall section and the note section, and then you can just base it off that. But I find the toggle a better way, because I feel like if you like have the two columns, you're going to just like peek at the question answers. So and it's also more aesthetic because everything's just like the question straight up.
Are you limited?
So I was asked, am I limited horizontally? I realized there's a mic, so people might not be able to hear the questions. And the answer is yes. You're limited horizontally mainly because like it's going to be cross-compatible with like Chrome as well as your iPad/phone. So then if it was like varying sizes, then it wouldn't be able to display the same way, because it would display exactly the same way on like an iPad versus a MacBook.
So the better one,
yeah, definitely. So the cross-compatibility is like so much better because it looks exactly the same, and it also doesn't take too long to load. So, and whatever you edit, it edits straight away. Like I think like OneNote struggles in the fact it gives you like an endless page almost, and then there's no actual like definitive anchor. Because sometimes when you put something in OneNote, everything moves. But then because in Notion, like things are block-based and it's based off the first block kind of thing, then you never actually have like random things floating about. Yeah, the formatting is probably more similar to Word. Yeah, and yeah, well, like OneNote's pretty much like Notability. You can just put whatever wherever. But I think like it might seem like a restriction formatting wise, but I actually think it helps you stay uniform with all your notes and things like that. So like you can also like use in terms of med, like if you do research and things like that, I actually think Notion's like probably not bad to actually use, because you can create like a they have a thesis planning one, which I mean I don't write theses, but thesi, but like you could do if you wanted to. I think a nice way to do it as well is if you do like a what's it called, board. Yeah, if you do like a board, and then you can say like what you've done, what's in progress and things like that. Like if you have like multiple sections of your paper that you're writing. And I think another like nice thing you can do as well is you can create a table, and let's say you've got like some journals that you want to read. And then maybe let's say started, and then we've got one called finished, right? So I don't know if we have a journal article somewhere. Anyone know a good journal article? Not Japanese chicken curry. I haven't written any. How do you spell that? yeah, let's say, actually, there's no link to it, but let's say you had this, like, oh, actually, no, you could do this. Like, you could add like a link to it, like straight up the link to the paper. You can kind of have like the name of the paper. And then like the reason I would recommend this is then you can have a page within this. So you want to take notes on that paper, and then you can keep all your notes on that paper here, and then have like a link to the actual paper as well. And then I think that would just make it more useful, because then you're like, oh, it's time to read this. Then you can just click it and then it's going to open up. Maybe it will open up usually, but basically like gives you like an easy way to access all your journal articles and things like that. Yeah, and you can upload PDFs, and we'll go through that in a bit as well. So some other things I use med-wise Notion for is like things that I need to look up. So just topics that I haven't really come around to actually looking up. I used to have another thing called like my daily quizzes, where I'd try and go through the life in the fast lane quizzes. And then I had trouble like remembering where I was up to for each one. So then I just had a counter going, and then every time I'd done one, then I'd update it, and then I'd just have a link to it straight away. Initially, I tried using a bookmark straight to it, but then I had the bookmark on Google Chrome, but then the link to actually where I'm up to somewhere else. And I think that was just a big struggle to actually keeping up with it. The other thing that's nice is if any of you are in fourth year, small plug, we did a little internship template tracker. So let's say you have hospitals that you want to go to and stuff. We created a little template for you so that you can, for each hospital network that you want to go, so let's say St. Vincent's, you can like put your login details, like information session dates and stuff, the pros and cons of each hospital, rotations available. And then it's just kind of like somewhere you can just like a scrapbook almost, if you just want to like throw around different ideas in terms of your hospitals and stuff. And then like tasks to do. So like, yeah, we went to that and now we're here. So, you know, we've done those two. And then like a track of like all the addressees for like the hospital networks and things like that. So like that could be useful for some people as well. Another thing I've started recently, but I think will probably come around a bit more next year is, has anyone read like Atul Gawande's books, like the Checklist Manifesto and things? Show of hands. Yeah. So it's kind of like talking about like the benefits of using checklists in like medicine and things like that. Like kind of like how pilots use it, and like it's not necessarily saying that we're going to use less thinking following checklists, but it just acts like as a gentle reminder. And they've shown like, you know, in surge and stuff, you've like introduced that to kind of decrease your infection rate and stuff. So I was thinking about like starting a checklist for that. So let's say like the surge safety thing. So then if I'm on the ward and I have like an iPad and things, then I can make sure that I go through all of these as well. So surge, maybe not so much. This one was probably just there like to show you guys. But like, let's say every time I see a patient with heart failure, then I can just make sure I do all of these things for them. For every procedure that I do, make sure I've got consent after procedure, you know, dispose of sharps and things like that. And then like, even once I've done all of these, like let's say I did all this, like all I have to do is just highlight all of them and uncheck them. So it's like an easy way to just reset through. And I think like, I'm hoping next year, like I can probably use that a bit more. And I think it just helps you become more thorough with the things that you do. But in all honesty, I use like Notion for like my non-med stuff at the moment. So the first things that I will talk about is a task list. And I think this is probably one of the best things to start with, because it's easier to do. There's no workflow. And if you want to change things around, you can as well. Quick plug, I recently learned how to do like a weather widget inside, which we'll go through as well. Basically now I can see what the weather is. It's crazy. That's why I'm wearing shorts in this like thunderstorm weather. Because I didn't check the weather. I only learned how to do this today. But like things that I needed to do for today, and then I have like things that I need to do later, and then I just have a link to like other task lists that I have somewhere else. So I personally only do the main things that I have to do in this. And then like small other things that I can do, like if it's related to my travels and stuff, I put in my travels one, because I'll just do that when I get around to doing travel stuff, unless it's something that has like a deadline and I have to do it by then. Yeah, so if you wanted to learn how to do the weather widget thing, so it's actually quite weird, but basically if you import stuff, you can import like HTML and things, right? So what you want to do is you want to find like the weather oops, this like weather widget thing, the weather.com/widget. And then like the only one that really works is if you do like a 3-day, I think normal. No, I think it's one of these 3-day width. And then I turn off wind so that it will show up in like the right size. And then you just put in like the location, if you want to change the style to like this, I don't know, whatever floats your boat. And then you can just copy, like I tried with the divs, but it didn't really work. Like you just do an image source thingy. So don't look at my emails. Can't upload like this. I'm going to have to like blur everything out. Okay, let's say that. And then it generates a code, and then you copy that in to a, like a blank doc. Oh, that's not it. Like if you copy that into a blank doc and then you save it as a HTML, then when you upload as a HTML, it'll have the widget, and then I paste it in as a gallery thing so that it will constrict itself into this size and then if I wanted to put like multiple places or something like that, I can put multiple weather things at once. But yeah, like the weather thing is only a new thing that I'm just giving a go at the moment. Some other things that I think is a good way to start is probably like trip planning, which I think a lot of people probably starting on Notion do. So this is an example of like a Hawaii trip that I might or might not be going to. I am. No, I'm joking. So like this is like our trip. We just have like a quick to-do list, stuff that we need to bring, but like we can worry about later. And then this is like a bit of our schedule. So the good thing about the table is you can put in your own properties. So we just put the date, location, who paid for what, and then what's the status of it. So then like if you say you want to look at the flight stuff, you can like put in your flight information, things like that. And that's just an easy way to like have everything together. The good thing about this is you can also have different views. So as we were talking before, you can change into like a calendar view. And then if you look at the calendar view, like it will show like what you're doing for each day as well. Yes. As in they can collaborate as guests, but you can just, yeah, as in it's probably like, you might as well get them onto it because then they can get notifications for like when someone's made a change as well.
And you can like, let's say, I know that my other person who like, I'm doing this currently and my friend Sean and he booked a place and I wanted him to put in the details. So I tagged him in the page and Sean can himself. And then he gets a notification that says like, oh, I sent a message. Yeah, and it shows them where I tagged them as well. So he gets into like the exact location where I want.
Yeah. It's like Slack on steroids, like to be honest, for real. It's really good. Oh yeah, we started at 5, sorry. Anyways, like you can also like see like schedules per day. So then like all you have to do for this kind of stuff is like I keep it sorted by date and then you can add a filter. So I filtered on the exact date and then you can do a day by day thing. Another thing you can do is like budgets. So we were just planning our budget and then you can add at the bottom. If you click this, if you hover over the bottom of the page and you click something called calculate, if it's all numerical data, then you can see what the total sum of things are. And that's just an easy way to show things. Is there anything else I want to talk about here? Oh yeah, you can embed maps and you can also embed like the directions of those maps. I haven't done that personally, but Nevin can show us later how he did that.
All you gotta do is on Google Maps, search your route, your journey, and then you click on share, and then there's an embed maps thing, and you copy that.
So for those of you at home, all you have to do is click embed once you've created direction. No, you share it. Sorry, you click share once you've like created the directions if you want to show the directions, and then you embed it. So it's real good. And then, you know, we put our travel insurance and stuff there. So that way, like we have access to it. And if we're like on the road and we're like, oh crap, like I don't have like my travel insurance and I lost something and I need it, then you can just put it all here. So I think that's a pretty useful way of having things. Like the other one I was going to show you is just my other trip. Sorry, no flexes here. It's just different views. So for like our Japan trip, so like the fish market. So like I just put in like when it opens, how to get there, a bit of a map as well, and the things to know when you're there. So since it's all within a page, you don't have this clunky like endless pages thing. You can just see a summary of things. And then I also sorted it by like location. So then everything that's happening in Tokyo, everything that's happening in Osaka, and then everything that's happening in Hokkaido. And that again, I filtered by date, but you can also create like separate things, like if you want to filter by like location or like type of activity, and then you can do it by that, or even payment. So then that way you can see who's paid for what, separated it, then you can calculate it all at once. And I also have like a status one, so like a quick one line on what's happening with that thing. So like, do we have to wait like for something to happen? And I think that's just an easy way, rather than like thinking of these little things in your head. You already know where everything is. Same thing with like a to-do list that we have. We just threw around some potential ideas, a little map of Japan, and then travel insurance and stuff. Okay. Any questions so far?
Yeah, with travel things and
Yep.
things like attaching PDFs of travel insurance, does that stuff all work offline?
As long as you have a previous copy of it. So as in what I would do
You
is,
just have to make sure you put it on.
yeah. I think if you leave it like that, then like if you're opening it on your phone, it should work. But I think if anything, like you'd probably find Wi-Fi and you can probably just access it. But like I've gone through like times where I've gone through all my emails and things because I never sort my emails, and then I can't find like different insurance things. But I find that's an easier way to put all that together. Any other questions from the floor?
There's two ways of doing the PDF there. One is like you can link it, click on it and it opens. I think if you do it that way, you might have to have it on your
Yeah.
yeah. Whereas if you embed it, I think it actually gets inserted into the
Yeah. So like you can throw in a PDF like this and then link it. And then you can also like embed, but I'm,
So if you embed it, it'll be.
actually even those ones like that.
yeah, this is uploaded. It's not a link to anything. So if I'm on my iPad, I can click on it and it'll open up. Yeah. So it's pretty useful for that stuff.
No, the reason I asked is because they're being called out.
To be honest, I don't know if they were going to have a full like offline version. I just wonder if that's just because if people edit things, they don't have any conflicts like resolution stuff yet. So I think what I would personally do is just like before your trip, download all the documents, but then you've got them all together at least. And then if you need to go offline, I don't know if you're like, completely offline, if it's that useful. Okay. My next thing I was going to talk about is finances. So like this is just these ones are just a copy of the things I have just because I have to take out some information. But this is like from the back to base stuff that I made in terms of like all the notes in terms of how to like credit cards, what we need it for, salary packaging, and things like that. And like the different specialist advisory practices. And then I shared this with a few people as well who didn't have Notion, and they can just see it publicly just through Google Chrome. And it's also like a quick summary for me to know like what I need to know about stuff if I need a quick reference for stuff like salary packaging. And then my favorite thing I have as well is this little kind of receipts and workflow. So I kind of had to come up with a workflow in terms of coming up with saving receipts and stuff. And that was something I felt if I didn't have a plan to do it, then I wouldn't be able to do it. Ongoing bills as well. But then I have all my warranties for anything that's remotely expensive or that I want to keep my warranty of. So like what the item is, where I bought it from, who bought it, the cost, what type of thing it was, if I have a receipt for it, and then like an attachment of the receipt. So let's say like I recently bought some like camera accessories and then it uploads into here. And then it's like non-intrusive because all the PDFs are small. And if you want to actually like read them, then you can click it like that. And I think here's like a good way to kind of see like your different sort functions as well as filters. So like I might want to see which ones I don't have a receipt for yet. So if I want to filter, add a new filter and then see items that, so this is based on the property. So whether or not I have a receipt, and then if I don't have a receipt, which items there are. So I've just got one item that doesn't have the receipt for it. I can add multiple filters on top of each other. So I might want to see everything that's the receipts there. And that was bought by like me, for instance. And then everything that was bought by me will show up. And then like you can just sort a lot of different other ways. I find this like these option tags like probably the best way to kind of quick sort things. So I personally recommend that. And yeah, I was going to put in like when their warranty is expired and stuff. A lot of these items I put in initially, and then I just haven't gone around to coming back to it. And whether or not I will, like, I might not. I think like general things I might just go off like the Australian tax. What is it? Consumer laws, how long you can have stuff for. But basically, like, it's an easy way to like look at all your receipts and stuff. And then if you like sort of like descending from date as well, and then maybe you create a filter where you only see things from the last month. That way, like every time you open it up, it isn't too much. And that's probably like the main thing, like finance wise, that I think is useful. Like I also have like one for like credit card repayments for like salary packaging. So then I can put how much I claimed and then like a file of my credit card statement. So then when it comes to tax time, like I'm not going through hours and hours of work and I already have everything there. I wouldn't need like an accountant to help me because I can just like have all my documents and just send it to someone to do that. What else? So the other things I use it for are like my hobbies and stuff. Like I try to get into video editing and I found that whole template thing like super useful as well. Like if you create a vlog kind of thing and you have like things that you have to do for each vlog, like let's say you edit color and stuff like that. So then what I would do is I created a template where I had like the title, the storyline, like things, just random ideas for it, and then editing checklist. So things I needed to do for every video, everything I needed to do to publish. And then that way, as I'm learning more about editing, then I can edit the template to add those things. And then slowly, like I'll be able to be very concise and thorough with all the things that I need to do. And then I can just have all that ready. And then like, if I want to do a calendar view, I can see like when I've uploaded things and stuff like that. So very useful, would recommend. And I just have like a little guides for like different things, just a quick reference. I started learning Jap as well. I don't use Notion very much for this because I use another app kind of like Duolingo called Lingodeer. And then since it primarily revolves around using that app, I don't need to keep track of many things. But the only things I do use is this thing called Animalon. I would, just a quick plug for this, if anyone's learning Japanese, like it's legit like the coolest thing ever because it like streams the anime that you're watching and then it has subtitles in like hiragana, your Japanese and English, and then you can like take snippets and then repeat it, and then every time you click a word it will show up with like what the word is supposed to be translated, and then from all the words that you've translated there's a button that you can create flashcards off it. So it's like pretty like intense. I don't know if this is a video. Is this even a video? Who knows? But if you're learning Jap, would recommend. And then like, I just put what I'm watching and then just any articles that I'm reading and then any study notes that I had. So the only thing I struggled mainly with was numbers. And then I just created like a quick reference thing for myself so that I would know like if I struggled with any of the numbers, I can come back to it. But the majority of the stuff isn't on Notion. So I wouldn't recommend using Notion for everything and anything. I think you want to find something that you actually will use it for and then do that. Some other things I use it for is like any books that I'm reading at the moment. I like to keep track using this. So things that I want to read, things that I'm reading at the moment, things that I finished reading. And then I like the board view because you can also add like text inside. So any quotes that I found that was that like I found was quite useful or like tugged a heartstring of mine, you know, I would write down. So then I have a reference to all of these if I wanted. Yes?
I understood stuff. Are these all stuff you kind of piece together from scratch, or is it stuff that's in templates?
Yeah, it's in templates. So you literally like, if I wanted to create one, sorry, we're just doing a quick segue. No, it's like if you just create like a board and then you straight up like have this already, and then you can just move this to like the end or like hide this one and then see it like that. So it's literally like 2 seconds and you've already got everything set up. And then like, I just found like any pages that I'm up to as well, like useful. The other things I tried to do like the whole checklisting for life. So like every time like I'm going out overnight somewhere, you know, got to have that Regain, got to have my clothes for the next day, you know. Quick plug for Regain. It's getting hot in here. So like shopping lists, like things that I was planning to buy as well, I have. And then any things that I'm collaborating with other people, I just have in a public one. So I can just see where everything is. And then like, I'll give you guys a sneaky peek at my notes for today's talk, you know? So then I just had all that ready to go. And I think they're the main things that I use it for. Like in terms of workflows, like generally, I think you want to have a decent workflow when you see that you know what you, like how much you're going to use Notion as well. So like when you go home, I usually check it like once I get home or add anything I need to do for the day. And then immediately, like once I've written everything down, I can, you know, have a shower, go do something else because I'm not worrying about, oh, what do I need to do? What do I need to do for today? Because I know it's going to be there. And if anything comes up, I can just add it and then forget it and then just come back to it later. The other thing I find, like the warranty workflow, I think was actually like something I spent a bit of time like thinking about how I would do it. So then like taking a photo of it on my iPad, airdropping it, and then renaming it, then importing it. So then now that I've like kind of established that, I kind of know if I'm going to add something to my like warranty thing, I already know how I'm going to do that. And then I think note taking is another one that's like a lot of effort if you don't know what you're doing or what you're wanting to do. Because then there's so many things you can do with your notes. You can make it look real pretty. You can have like things everywhere if you wanted. But then I think it's probably not the best thing to start with because you're just going to run into a few struggles with that because you're going to keep wanting to change things. And if you already have like 20 notes in one thing, then you're like, oh, I want to get rid of this breadcrumb. And then you're going to remove the breadcrumb from all of them. And then it's just a bit of a waste of effort. So just some other tips, like that was it for the demo bit. But I think tips for starting from scratch, I would recommend. So how many of you have not used Notion before? Oh yeah, that's good to see. So new Notion friends. So so firstly, like I would highly recommend starting small, and especially things that don't have workflows. So task lists and travel planning are probably my biggest two. Travel planning is a nice one because you can make it look real aesthetic and have everything like super organized. And then task lists, like I just use it to replace Wunderlist, but it's just an easy way to keep track of things. And like over time, as you start to learn the different functions, like the rest of your Notion will kind of fill out. And like you always have the option to mass change things as well. So if you have everything in like a list view and you realize, you know, actually like I don't really like it this way, you can actually just drag the list items out and then it will like the pages will just go back into the page. And then if you want to like change it into another view type, you can just drag all the pages back in. So then like start with what you actually need. And then like over time, you kind of work out like aesthetic changes that you might want to make that might slightly tweak things, but overall like your main workflow is what you want to work on. And then like, I wouldn't bother with like your front page and stuff yet. Like honestly, I never look at the front page. I usually just use like quick links here. Or my other way is you use quick find and you can see like the last things you looked at, or you can straight up just search the page. And that's pretty like useful if you're just going back and forth between two pages, or, you know, you could just open up another window. Hey, in terms of like complicated things, like you don't want to overcomplicate things as well. Like just because you can do something in Notion doesn't mean you should. So you can tag everything and be like pseudo, like you really like micromanage all your tasks. But if you realize at the end of the day, like the only thing you care about is have I done it or not? Yes or no? Like my task list started off as one of those boards, but then I realized like all I wanted to know was had I done it or not. And then I changed it to one of the to-do lists because I realized it was just an easy way for me to keep track of what I've done. And like you can also like mass transfer notes from other places. So if you kind of have like a ton of like Word doc notes or stuff, you can straight up import everything, or like Google Docs and stuff. And like I think with the OneNote you can export everything. I don't know if you can export it as a Word doc or if you can export it as like a PDF or something. But then if you have all your notes on Google Docs and you want to make the move, like I think medical notes is probably the last thing you want to do because like it's, for me, I'm just starting fresh because now that I know what I actually need versus what I don't as a fifth year, then I can kind of like base it off that. I think if you're like fourth year and stuff, it's probably not worth it because then you're like starting a new database and you're just doing things twice. So like that's why I would primarily recommend it for like life things. And I think for those of you in, you know, BMed size and stuff, it's a perfect time to actually learn it. Because like you've got this whole year, like for me, my goal for fifth year was kind of to sort my life out. So then I've kind of had this time to think and reflect on these things. And then like, since you're not worrying about exams and stuff, you can work out how your life is going to flow. And now, like when I start next year and I have like a time limited kind of day, then I already know what I need to work on. What's my priority? Like if I had a thing that broke, like my camera lens might have smashed or something and I need to find the warranty, I've already put in all the effort initially to kind of keep that up. So I think like initially it's going to be some effort, but then it's something that will pay dividends in the future for yourself because you've already put in the time to kind of maintain these things for yourself. And I think the last thing I would recommend is like planning. So like if you like see the way some people do things, so you might see my notes and be like, oh, that's cool. But then you try it and you're like, that's not for me. Like, don't feel like you need to do something because it looks aesthetic. Like plan how you like to do things, what you need in your things, and then you transfer those over. Because that way you can actually like get used to using those things. And just play around with it as well. So like if you have time, just like try out the different features on Notion. And then you might find something, be like, oh, that's a good feature. I actually would use that a lot. And I think that's an easy way to keep at it. Okay, that was the end of my talk.